Hello and welcome to our intro module as we look at how do we attract, retain, and set employees up for success through this series of online learning modules. With each one, you're going to take a quiz, pre-test quiz, then a post quiz to kind of figure out what you learned throughout this process. I'm Paul Geringer. I'm a senior faculty specialist and extension specialist here in the Department of Ag and Resource Economics. Um, with me today, you will see throughout the course of these videos, you'll see folks from University of Maryland Extension and University of Delaware Extension. So we're thankful to have all these people a part of this great project and looking at it and looking at all these issues. So you'll learn a lot through this process. How do you retain? How do you hire? How do you add benefits into the operation? And then how do you utilize the employee handbook that will be provided to you at the end? So we want to start off thinking about this. Why is attracting employees important? Why do we want to do this and why do we want to retain them? There's a lot of reasons why you want to do this. And the first thing I need to point out before we get in the slide deck is university programs are open to all. If you feel discriminated against at any point in this, email and we can put you in touch with the right people to talk to.
Is an equal opportunity provider.
So we thank the University of Delaware through their Northeast Risk Management Education Center for providing the funding for today's workshop. So they hosted workshops through this and we're developing resources from these, which have been led into this online course. So let's start thinking about this. What does it cost your operation when you have to hire people? You lose time, you've lost time in the operation because you're a person down. What's lost? You're a person down. People are doing more work in this situation. We really have to think about that. Why do we want to retain employees? We don't want to do extra work. Searches add extra work on as well that we have to do. And we may not always find a qualified applicant out there that we have to think about in all of this. So from personal experience, I deal with this periodically when we do not have a coordinator in our program. We often have important jobs fall through the cracks because people can't do them. We often don't think about all the steps that need to go in because it's not in our daily job. So these are things that happen. It creates additional work. I have to get an overload on my work every time I do it to get paid a little bit extra money to do what I need to do to get the job done. The idea today is to start thinking about better ways to assist you in understanding how changes in how you potentially hire can assist you down the road to do stuff long term. So what's the cost of a search? If you look at the Society of Human Resource Management, they put the search at costing roughly most small businesses around $4,700. But companies, when they look at this internally, like big companies, often think it's for 3 to 4 times the person's salary. So if you're thinking about how much you're paying that farmhand each year, multiply that by a factor of 4, and that's probably going to get you close to what you're owed. Like I point in the example, if that person's making 50K a year, we're looking at $150,000 to $200,000 just in cost to the company from not having that person in. So this is why searches are always, things that, yes, we can bring new people in, but there are also things where we have to think about we're potentially looking at this from the standpoint of it's costing the operation money and all of this. Why are these costs so high? We face loss in productivity, costs to support the search, loss of candidates during the search, or potentially no candidates existing. I've gone through searches here with the university for staff and faculty positions where we've had all that happen at one time. There are other costs we're missing. They're going to be individualized to each one of your operations, and you should think about what that costs you to do that in the long run. So why do we want to attract and retain qualified employees? So how do we go about attracting employees? What are you doing? First, what's your business reputation in the community? I often point this out to people. If you have a reputation for being a bad employer, you don't pay your employees timely, other issues have happened, you belittle employees, you berate employees, you're not going to have a good reputation where people want to go work for you. We want to have that reputation so people want to come work for us. They want to have development to move on to either the next thing or grow within that potential. As I point out, do you have a reputation in place? People want to work. May not always be the case. It's things we have to think about. How do we write good job descriptions? Nate's going to talk about this in his session. Like, how do we start thinking about how to write a job description that attracts employees? As I point out, and the research shows, younger employees are looking at company culture and they're seeing if that culture aligns with them. We may want to list like some of our core values within this. You may look at that and think that's a bad idea. That's actually may help you attract people you want to go into. We often have this discussion that we're looking at people coming into ag sometimes who may not have ag backgrounds, but are actually really good employees because a lot of what agriculture does aligns with their values today. So it may be that way. Do you have an onboarding process, or is it you just throw people to the wolves and have them figure it out on their own? There's not a formal onboarding. It may create problems where folks don't know that. Nate's going to talk a lot about that as we move down. What are the development opportunities? Are we going to help them get better? Are we going to help them get potential licenses that they need within this so they're better marketing themselves within the operation, or potentially able to do other stuff? If you're not able to pay them, adequately, they may be able, because of the licensing that the licenses they have to get for working for you, they may be able to do side things, that help generate extra income for them. These are things we have to look at within this. What's the development opportunity? If we look at people today, they leave companies because they don't have development opportunities. They're not being developed. They're not being able to move up a ladder. If we're keeping people at a low level the whole time, there's a lot of times no point in them sticking around. Recognize when employees do something good. Like, I try every time employees do something great, try to walk in and say, thank you for that. That was a great job. I really appreciate it. Trying to show some appreciation in what they're doing. Check in with them regularly. Just make it a habit of walking by. It's often called managing by walking around. Just checking in, see how people are doing. If they look a little down that day, ask how things going. Monday morning, ask how was the weekend. Ask Fridays, what's the plans for the weekend? Trying to make some stuff where you're at least checking in. And also at the same time, you're just checking in to see what's on their plates. Do they have enough to work on? Are they overwhelmed? Is it too much? Do we need to pull back and think about how do we divide work in different ways? We've all had to do that within our jobs. It's something we really do need to think about. As we go through this, recent studies also show that candidates often look at benefits packages when picking jobs. This can include health insurance, vision, dental, and retirement. What else? Is there leave? Am I going to be able to go on vacation periodically, or am I going to have to work all the time? We need to recognize, this isn't the norm that we see in agriculture today. I don't know a lot of farms offering benefits in some cases. Larger ones are. Smaller ones may be able to in some ways. There's often a lot that needs to go on in that. Jesse and Maria are going to talk about this with health insurance and retirement in all of this, not only for the employee, but for the employer as well, to think about options they have that may cost a little bit of money, but may provide the benefits for their employees. So what's the one final thought we need to be on this? Keep in mind, and I often have to keep this in mind as I do stuff at the university as well and not take it personally. In a lot of cases, you may be providing a person with a starter job. I have a number of starter jobs that people do for me. They're here 2-3 years max. You gain a set of skills and you're ready to move on to the next position because we may not have the growth that you need. You may have the skill set now to where you can go off and do your own thing. But if you don't have that ability to advance and grow, you might not be able to offer that position. You may not be able to offer that within the farm. They may be just always at this level. We may add other duties on or expand the role in a way to help, but it may not always be the case. We need to keep that in mind, that, this may be a way to get them in and then they move on. But the thing is, if you have a good reputation in the community for doing that, it really does help bring in new dynamic people who want to move on to the next role. So they'll be there a couple of years, you train them, and then eventually, if you get it working right and the wheels of motion stay going properly, they may be able to help you find the next person who wants to start based off their experience to gain that skill set and keep moving up and keep being able to keep that position filled. From the employer standpoint, it may help you out as well because you're getting new people in who have different ideas, and it helps you think about how you're operating as well. So I said I'm part of the Ag Law Education Initiative. There's our information there. funded by Empowering the State. I'll leave that up for a second so you can read it. I do a blog at agris.umd.edu. Some of you will be going there to find some of the resources that we're going to have listed, because we'll have a list of resources with each one of these pages. I work, I'm also a collaborator with Southern Ag Today. If you would like to put stuff in, check that out. I don't know if that QR code still works, but you can go to southernagtoday.org and get stuff. It has marketing, trade, policy, law, all sorts of various ag econ policy type information that you can look at each day. So if there are no questions, because all of you are watching this virtually, we can keep going. And there is my contact info. You can get me at lgoring@umd.edu, and we will continue on. If you're done with this, you can move on to the next module and take the pre-quiz and get started with that. Thank you for taking part in this course.